Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to PowerNAP Live. Hi, y'all. It feels so good to be back. Whew, and this time I've got my voice back. Okay, it is back. So, folks who know me know a few weeks ago, not even a few weeks ago, last week, literally last week, which is why we didn't have a show last week. I completely lost my voice. I couldn't record. I couldn't teach. One night I was out with a client having dinner, and y'all, I had to point. Like I was pointing at the menu so that I could literally get what I wanted because I could not talk above a whisper. It was absolutely wild. I cannot think of a time where I lost my voice before. So it was just a wild experience. And while I was sitting there, something like hit me. Okay. I lost my voice. Even though I hadn't lost my voice before, um, I had lost it, not necessarily physically, but I had lost it in life before. And so it made me want to talk to you guys about that this week. Hey, thank you. I see folks saying welcome back. There are seasons where I stop speaking up, where I swallow my truth because it felt safer. Because it felt safer to be silent at some moments in my life. So even though I couldn't record that week, that message, it just stayed with me because I know there are people around me who need to find their voice again. So today I'm going to talk about what happens when we lose our voice and how we can find it again right after this. Yes, I see y'all in the comments. Let me know where you're streaming from. Let me go over and peek at the comments real quick and see who's here. Yes, I see my folks, Let me know actually where you're streaming from. Somebody asked me the other day, where are strategic resters? And I was like, they're all over. And so let me know where you're streaming from because I'd love to know that. And let me know in the comments, have you lost your voice before? Have you lost your voice physically? But specifically what we're talking about today is have you lost it to silence, to not saying what needed to be said? And we're going to talk about that. Come on, Funky Town. We've got Erica in Washington, baby. Yes. All right. So let's hop in. When my voice disappeared, I realized just how dependent on my voice I am. Like, not just for work, but literally for connection. So folks that know me know that I'm not highly motivated by people. And if you've ever done SDI, which is an assessment that measures how you're motivated, your conflict sequence, it also tells you your strengths. And then, honey, it tells you your overdone strengths, what you may be doing or how people may be perceiving the things that you do best in a not positive light when you overdo them. That will get your life together. And I need to bring that to the show. You know what? I'm gonna maybe do an assessment for one viewer and bring it, and maybe we'll debrief it together on the show. But we'll keep that in mind. But I've got folks saying that they've lost, right? It was so yes, there are times when I started thinking about other times that I've gone quiet, right? Just because I'm incredibly dependent on my voice. I was like wanting to ask for something special from the hotel person. And I realized that my voice is so much of how I say things, what I say to people, that allows people to feel connected to me so that I can do or get or say or whatever the case is. I was on my flight and it was so hard because usually I laugh and giggle with the with the flight attendant, and that usually ends up getting me, of course, usually they treat me well anyway, okay, because we all know since being the front, okay. But even with that, I usually get even better treatment because of my personality, because I connect with people, right? So it was so hard. Number one, it brought to my attention how often I actually do connect with people throughout my journey, throughout my life, right? How I wouldn't necessarily like intentionally connect, but I just do. It's who I am naturally, but also how much that connection impacts my life positively. And it was so hard when I couldn't talk, I couldn't joke, I couldn't point out things that I wanted to point out to people. I was literally, like I said in the intro, pointing to food, right? So it was so tough. And I started then to think about other times that I've gone quiet. Times when I let other people's comfort outweigh my own clarity. And that was a problem. It was. Are you doing that? Is the question. That's the silence that we just don't talk about enough. It's not always loud or obnoxious. It's the quiet kind of silence. It's that kind that like sneaks in when you keep the peace, when you downplay what you know, when you apologize for shining too brightly. That's where that silence comes in. Because silence isn't strength when it costs you the truth. That's the truth. That silence is not strength that only values certain sounds. And that's what it feels like constantly, especially right now, that our volume has to be so low because the world only values the voice, the sound, the words of people that aren't necessarily us, right? But the world doesn't need a muted version of you. It needs your honest frequency. And it doesn't mean that you always telling people everything. So in my assessment, I didn't even think I was going to talk about that assessment today. Oh, I saw Deja say, where can I access it? If you go to my website, send me a contact thing, or you know how to get a hold of me, and I'd be happy for us to get you connected with that assessment, and then a debrief. That's what I do in my work. Okay, but it needs your honest frequency. That doesn't mean that you're walking around telling people every last thing about what you have going on, but it does need your honesty, right? I don't want to do that. No, it's okay. It needs your honest frequency. So my first stage of conflict is to assert. Okay. And I didn't realize, it took me a long time to realize that other people, and especially once I started to become a practitioner of using SDI for other people, and started to understand conflict. I didn't realize that if someone wasn't in conflict, well, that other people who are in conflict, their first stage, because we experience conflict in 3 stages, is not necessarily to assert like me. So I always assumed if you didn't assert, if you didn't say, nah, that's not what I'm going to do, okay? My assert is not aggressive. It is just straight up what I'm not going to do, what I want to do, why that's not going to work. It is just always that case, right? But I always assumed if other people weren't doing that, that they were not experiencing conflict. And that's just not the case. Some people accommodate, right? Other people analyze and start to ask themselves questions when they first experience conflict, right? So it needs your honesty. And honesty may not always be that first piece of assert, but you can let people know, hey, I need time to think about this. If analyze is the first stage that you experience when you're experiencing conflict, right? You can also let someone know, hey, I don't know, something about that felt personal. So I'm going to let I don't really, it doesn't matter to me right now what we do as an option. So you pick, right? But if you're never saying any of those things, then you're not tuned in to your honest frequency. Okay. So the wild thing about getting your voice back is that it's not an instant. Okay, y'all, I was in here. I promise. The number of what are those things? Cough drops. Maybe I should have bought stock in cough drops the way I was sucking on these cough drops trying to get my voice back, right? I stopped talking for a few days, like completely talking. I was typing into my phone to communicate with my husband because I needed my voice back for a video I had to shoot for some clients, right? But the wildest thing is that I didn't get my voice back instantly, even after trying not to use it. And when it came back, it was rough, y'all. It was uncertain. I wasn't always sure that it was going to be there. And the first time that I used it, the first time that I started talking again, especially after losing my voice, was that it felt awkward. I wasn't sure that it was going to be where I needed it to be, right? Deja in the comments said her voice is gone right now. Exactly. Well, as your voice is gone, as it comes back, it's gonna feel awkward to use again, especially if, like me, you just literally cut it off. But you know what? Even that awkwardness, even that uncertainty of where it is, that is progress. That's healing. It is absolutely the same way you're not sure about your voice, the same way it feels shaky when it's coming back after you lose it, is the same way it feels when you start speaking up in your life again. You may stumble over that first no. It may be hard to get it out. Practice right now. No. I don't have no problem with it, but I want you to be able to say no. But it wasn't always that I couldn't say no or can't. There are still things I have to practice every day to make sure that I'm living in my honesty frequency, right? When people ask me to do things or whatever the case is, I have to really evaluate, is that, do I have the capacity to be able to do it? And before, that was never a question that I would ask myself. I would just say yes. I would just say yes. I talk about that in my book, Strategic Rest and Leadership, that literally I yesed myself into epilepsy. I literally yesed myself into a stress-induced seizure. And we can't let yes take us out in this season. You cannot. So what happens, right? When you start speaking up in your life again, remember that no, the first no, it may feel shaky. You may over explain a boundary, right? There are some of us out here that the boundary is the boundary and is the boundary and is the boundary, okay? But that takes practice. So don't beat yourself up. So you may over explain that boundary. You may question your own truth as you're telling it to someone, your first honest truth that you're actually letting out, right? But that doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It means that you're waking up just like your voice. Every confident voice that you admire out there, no matter whose it is and what it is, started out with a whisper. Every powerhouse leader has once questioned their right to be able to speak and to be able to speak in the places and the spaces in which they speak in. I promise you that. But if you don't find power by being perfect, you find it by practicing your truth. That's how you find it. Not perfection, not always saying exactly the right thing, but literally by practicing being authentically who you are, your specific truth. So if you have been quiet for too long, okay, y'all know I like to get close to the camera when I say that. If you have been quiet for way too long, your voice has been waiting on you. It's been waiting for you to give it a me. This is your moment. If before this you have been hoarse when it comes to saying what you need, speaking up, then this is that exact moment. Clear your throat. I think of that. What's the Let me clear my throat. You need to be hearing that this week as you're talking to people, as you're sharing what your voice needs in this season. Let me clear my throat. Speak your needs. Let your needs have sound in this season, okay? Because they haven't. And you're missing out on the benefits of being someone that uses your voice. So I also learned, right, something else while my voice was gone. Healing doesn't happen through force. It happens through alignment. As I was going like, come on, voice, come on, I need you back, baby. We've been to y'all. I'm going to see John Legend song. It's a bunch of John Legend songs in my mind, but John going like, we've been together for a while now. Okay, me and my voice, we've been together. We've been doing things together. Okay, so I was like, I need you to come back. But I couldn't push my voice back. I couldn't. No matter what I did, no matter how much I willed it, and y'all know I was out here praying in these streets. Now that was bringing it back. Okay. But no matter how much I thought to myself, you know what? It's just going to come out this time. It didn't. I had to rest it. I had to hydrate it. And I had to do one important thing. I had to give it some grace. Are you giving your voice grace in this season? Are you allowing it to show up in a place of alignment? The same way, that is exactly the same way, through rest, through healing it, through giving it grace, through hydrating it. That's the same way that we metaphorically reclaim our voice in the spaces that we're in. Not through pressure, but through care. Knowing that what we need makes sense, right? And that we are entitled, that we owe it to others to allow them to know what our boundaries are through our voice, right? Here's the thing, you do not recover your voice by shouting louder. You recover it by living your truth. You don't recover it by shouting louder. If I had continued to talk, continue to facilitate, continue to do all those things, I probably wouldn't have my voice right now. But allowing it space to rest and understanding that it didn't have to be loud to be impactful was the thing that changed the game. I want you to start asking yourself as we're doing our sound check, as we're clearing our throat, right? A question I want you to ask yourself is, where have I gone quiet? Where have I gone quiet? I want you to also ask yourself this week, what truth am I still avoiding? What is it? What's a truth that you're still avoiding? There have been several for me over the past few months that I've had to confront. What is a truth that I'm still avoiding and to jump onto, right? Even though it was difficult. And I also want you to ask yourself, what would it sound like if I started living at full volume again? What would it sound like if you started living in full volume and not half volume? Would people be able to see the beauty of your music if you turned it up some? Probably. When was your last sound check? I love that. Absolutely, Willie. When was your last sound check? Because folks don't do sound checks just for fun. It's to make sure that when they're using the mic, that it actually works. Because have you ever been to a concert where you done paid your money? Baby, I guarantee, okay? Guarantee. If I show up down to the John Legend concert and them mics don't work, they better be on sound check. And they're on sound check because a part of your experience, especially when you're hearing something beautiful, the sound that's supposed to be beautiful is that people have prepared to be able to allow you to hear that sound. Have you prepared yourself for people to be able to hear your sound? And if you haven't, then it's time for you to be asking those questions. What truth am I avoiding? What would it sound like if I was living at my full volume again? And where have I gone quiet? Because your voice is so much more than sound. It's energy, y'all. It's decisions. It's alignment. It's literally the way that you walk into a room and say, I belong here. You can even whisper that if you need to. I was talking with a good friend of mine this week. We always try to catch up with each other. And one of the things that I was talking about is how I keep encountering so many people who are nervous about spaces that they're in. Like, do I deserve to be in a space? And I said, I don't remember really truly asking myself that question. I guess I was just raised to believe that the space that I was in was where I was supposed to be. And so, even if that kind of confidence wasn't passed on to you, then I'm giving it to you right now. I'm giving you permission. The space that you're in, you're supposed to be in. You belong. Even if it's something that you don't know, even if it's a new promotion and you're finding your way, even if it is as CEO, wherever you are, right? You belong. And if you've ever questioned that, I hope you no longer question it after today. You belong. And if there's nothing else you've heard today, you belong. So I want to end right on something practical because y'all know that's what I always do, right? I'm gonna bring you here. We're gonna kiki, and then we're gonna talk about exactly how to do something. And today it's how to speak your needs. Okay. So, because finding your voice is not just about reflection, it's not just about asking yourself those questions, it's also about communicating, actually using your voice. So, let's talk about what it looks like to actually speak your needs, okay? Because once you found your voice again, you've got to know exactly how to use it. You don't recover your voice by forcing it louder. All right. It's all about recovering it by using it honestly. And that's what we're going to make sure we're doing. So here's what that means. Okay. When you speak your needs, don't perform. Don't perform them. You need to practice honesty. What do I really need in this season? And how do I tell someone that? Right. Remember, you don't have to sound confident. Now, I always sound pretty confident in telling folks exactly what I'm about to do and what I ain't going to do, right? But it takes practice. So you don't have to sound confident in order to tell someone what you want to do. You just got to sound clear. Okay? You just need to bring clarity. All right? It ain't got to be loud. It just needs to be clear. Okay? Try to say things like, I need a little more time. I need a little bit more time before I commit to that. Right? I always tell y'all my trick. Send me an email. That lets me know if somebody is serious. But saying to someone, I need a little bit more time before I commit to that allows for you to think about number one, is this something I want to do? And also to create boundaries around it if those are things that you need in order to maybe engage in that specific thing. You can say something like, hey, I need some support with this project. You'll just be sitting in your office pouting, and y'all had a conversation with someone the other day, literally a potential client, and this person was talking about how they were not being supported. So my question to that person was, have you asked for support? Y'all, the answer was no. You never asked somebody for support. The silence, the realization for the person as we had that conversation. So y'all are out here wanting stuff that you've never even opened your mouth to ask for. You've got a voice. Why aren't you using it? Ask. You want somebody to stop doing something? Ask. You want something? Ask. What's the worst that can happen? The person says no. Okay. Okay. We move on. One of the things that I wish I could bottle up for people is that I don't live in a state of fear of no. If a potential client tells me no, okay, maybe it'll be next year. Maybe it'll be whenever. Maybe it'll be never. But if I don't hear any no's and I stop myself at the fear of feeling no, I wouldn't have any clients. So stop being afraid of no. It's not gonna bite you. It may sting a little bit sometimes, but you've got to hear no enough so that it doesn't hurt anymore. Have you I want you to think about as we wrap, right? I often think about how, especially with people shooting their shots, right? There are there are literally people, there are literally, so I have to say some guys because that's kind of the frame of reference that I have, right? But now, of course, I've been married for 10 years now, almost 10 years, or will be 10 years next year, or whatever the case is. So for sure, 9 in November, okay? But before that, I remember that the people who I wanted to shoot their shot at me never shot their shot. They ain't even come to the basketball court. They ain't even put on no tennis shoes, y'all. Right? But there were plenty of people that would lace up those shoes, come to the court, baby, and continue to shoot, even after I would be like, no, thank you. I don't want you at my basketball game. But those folks were never afraid of no. Think about the people in your life that are not afraid of no. And I think that's because they're not afraid of what happens with it. It just means for this specific instance that it's a no. It doesn't mean that no is forever. So I need for you to be willing to get that rebound, okay? When you hear no, dust yourself off and keep moving. No cannot take you out of the game. And I think so many people live in a state of thinking that no will take you out, and it won't. We've got to stop being fearful of hearing no, okay? You can also say to people, that doesn't sound right for me right now. It just doesn't work for me. That's not what I can do right now. Okay. So there are so many ways in which you can speak your truth. And I want to encourage you this week to be able to do that. But to make sure that it's simple, that it's true, and that it's grounded. That it's grounded in who you are, who you want to be, who the goals that you have, that it's grounded. Because that honesty is incredibly important as you're using your voice. Ask yourself, where did I stop speaking truth? Remember, we're asking ourselves these questions. Who am I trying to keep comfortable is a question that you may need to be asking yourself around your voice. And who am I to stay afraid of what will happen when I say what I mean? You can't be living in fear of what will happen if you say what you mean, especially if you say it with grace and grounded in your truth. It may shake up some things, but that is what may be necessary for you to have your voice. When you answer those questions, when you start turning your life back to your authenticity frequency, the sound of your voice, the sound of your real voice is not just what you say. It's literally how you live. It's the decisions that you make. It's the boundaries that you set. And y'all, it is your literally your peace of mind. Because sometimes the most powerful sound in the room isn't noise, it's literally clarity. So this week, anytime before this, whenever, if you've been muted by fear, by fatigue, because some of us are just tired out here, if you've been trying to keep everybody comfortable, this is your reminder. This show today is your reminder that your voice deserves space. Rest her. Rest that voice. Nurture your voice. But don't abandon it. Because we need your voice. You need your voice. Okay? This week, I want you to practice using your voice, whatever that looks like for you. Even if it trembles, even if you're not exactly sure what to say, I want you to practice using your voice today. No apologizing, no over explaining the boundaries, but I want you to practice this week really using your voice. We need it. All right, you guys, I cannot believe it, but it is time for me to head on out. You guys, I hope to see you next week, same time, same place, Sunday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube. Share this with somebody this week and tell them to subscribe, hit the like button, and I love, love, love to chat with you guys in the comments, all right? You guys, until I see you next week, make sure that you make good decisions and rest strategically. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.